Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's your boy Naeem Muhammad with Islamic Relief USA, where we're working together for a better world. Today, Wednesday, we're back at it again, alhamdulillah. Thank you guys for tuning in and checking in with us always. Really excited to have you here with us today. We're going to be talking about our new Middle East campaign that we're doing. Talking about the work that we're doing in places like Yemen and in Palestine in particular. Each month we try to give you another segment of the work that we do with Islamic Relief. We think it's a great way for you to introduce the more than 40 countries that we work in around the world. So today, again, focusing in on our Yemen projects and on our Palestine projects. Alhamdulillah, Islamic Relief's been working in the region for many years now, and it's all been because of your great support. And we're going to have one of our team members from the programs department walk us through some of these great programs. So without further ado, let's check out the new video for our theme, which is focus on the Middle East. Focus on the Middle East.
Focus on the ones scared in their own homes, their screams and shivers, those families who have lost everything, those who have fled their homes in search of peace. Focus on their resilience. Focus on their courage to keep going. Focus on their strength to stand up again. Focus on their smile. Focus on her, on him, on them. Focus on the Middle East. Donate today at irusa.org.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please warm welcome to our good friend Barbara Gallitz. Hey.
Hey, Naeem.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Can't complain. How about yourself?
Just flying by the seat of my pants as most days. But alhamdulillah, it's a good Wednesday. The weather's great here in this part of the country, and I feel that also Dallas, where we had the emergency, that they're thawing out there, trying to get back to normal, and alhamdulillah, IR is doing what it can to support families there. But today we're talking about the families that we're doing, as we said, focusing on the Middle East, inshallah, and the programs that we're doing there. Let people know what you do here at Islamic Relief, by the way. And already we got checking in our good sister Wafa. She's a great person. Actually, Wafa is going to be on with us next week. We're doing a I believe it's next week. It's the beginning of March that we're going to do a volunteer focus and effort. So, but right now we're focusing on you, Barbara. So tell us a little bit what you do at Islamic Relief.
Yeah, great. So I'm the Senior International Programs Coordinator for the Middle East and North Africa. I handle all of the grants that we make to fund our programs in that region. So covering Tunisia, Palestine, Yemen, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey.
All right, awesome. Is there any part of the world that you kind of lean more to, or some of the projects that you get really excited about in your catalog that, and watch, if they don't fit in these two, that won't help us. But are there any two regions that like kind of leap out at you when you get projects? You're like, oh my God, like this great. I know what's happening on the ground. The need's great, so I'm really excited when I get something from here.
I generally feel like that about most of our projects. I mean, in Palestine and Yemen, it's definitely a really strong feeling of like, okay, yeah, I can see how this fits into what needs to go. And, sometimes, there's questions that, you have to kind of work through of why this fits in exactly, but that's what our field teams are for. And our field teams, are the ones on the ground who are identifying what the actual need is. And my job is just to look through, make sure everything makes sense, and then make sure our money is going towards a good project. It's actually going to reach the people and have impacts on people's lives.
All right, excellent. So we're gonna first start with Yemen. So I have a really quick Yemen video. We're gonna talk about food. We're gonna talk about some water stuff and a little bit on food security. So let's check this out.
The situation in Yemen is becoming worse by the second. With COVID-19 spreading fast, the need already so great, the consequences for the people in Yemen are dire. Water is already scarce as drought continues. Hygiene is an afterthought where survival itself is so difficult, especially with rapidly spreading disease. The people of Yemen need your prayers, but most of all, They need your support. With Islamic Relief, you can help them cope with the coronavirus pandemic and provide emergency support. Islamic Relief is focusing on 160 health facilities across different governorates in Yemen, where we already have ongoing programming. We are establishing quarantine centers and working on prevention through education and awareness sessions. And when possible, we will be providing emergency aid in forms of health aid, food support, water and sanitation, and more. Please don't forget the people of Yemen. Donate today.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. The work that we're doing there. I want you, if you could give us like a brief overview of like kind of the places that we work, and the types of projects that we're doing in the region.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 9 offices across Yemen, with the headquarters being in Sana'a. And most of our work, so if you look at this map of Yemen, you'll see that most of our work is on the western side of that. That's where the highest population density is. So we're in areas like Taiz, Sana'a, Sa'da, Amran, Lahej, and Damar. So all of Hodeidah as well is a big area where we're active. So our 9 offices cover those areas, and then there's 300 staff and 3,000 volunteers in the country. So it's a pretty large operation.
300 staff, 300, and I think and we work. Can you talk about some of the partners we work with in the region too? I think we do a lot with World Food, or maybe at one point we were doing a lot of the work with World Food Program in the region.
Yeah, so IR Yemen is a major World Food Program partner. They help deliver approximately, I believe it's 20% of World Food Program's food packages in Yemen. So those are the packages provided by the UN World Food Program to families who would otherwise, face starvation conditions.
Okay. Excellent.
So that's a major part. And then we also work through the UN cluster system, which is divided by sector in every country where the UN is active. So you'll have the water and sanitation sector, the health sector, the livelihood sector, which all of those are led by a different cluster, which is headed by a different UN body to make sure that organizations aren't overlapping and duplicating work.
Excellent. All right, so we want to talk about one of those sectors, kind of focusing on some of the water, on wash side of things. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go through some photos to see some of that in action.
Yeah, so in the wash sector, or water, sanitation, and hygiene, IRUSA funds projects that are rehabilitating municipal level water wells. So these are large scale water wells that are in Yemen that have already existed, but for a lack of maintenance and also due to the war, those wells have either been contaminated or are inoperable or have been destroyed and just need to be rehabilitated in order to continue working. So under these projects, what we do is we go in and rehabilitate the water source to make sure that there's enough water for the communities that it's reaching, B, that the water content is safe for consumption and for use, and then also we install the infrastructure to either bring it closer to town if it's not already there, or replace stuff that is broken. We also install solar systems in order to make the communities less reliant on fuel. There is a persistent fuel crisis in Yemen because of just importation difficulties and the ongoing conflict, where fuel is extremely expensive. So the generators to run the pumps for the wells is very hard to come by. And so the solar systems help people have access to clean water.
And I think I have some of those examples. Like you guys are seeing photos now of examples, like as you're seeing some of the work that's being done to rehabilitate systems, new systems that are being placed here, like this huge water storage tower. Workers there on the top, they're making that happen. And here, like some of the smaller water points that are being rehabbed and fixed as well. Other water points, and I was trying to get to that. The beautiful solar array, and you see families and young children, having water access closer to their homes, as Barbara was talking about. Make sure that kids can they're not spending the majority of their life just fetching water far distances, but having that makes life a lot better. And here's an example of those solar arrays that we were talking about earlier. So not having to rely on rely on, I guess, like diesel or diesel fuel, whatever you have there, in order to for the pump systems to bring water to the surface. But having that solar array, I mean, these are like really advanced technologies that we're using to do so. But then there's also just to get, I mean, and we talk about how important this is because we know Yemen was suffering from cholera and different other issues, and that water, having access to water, is one of the, or clean access to water is one of the main issues that they were dealing with that. So you guys are literally saving lives by doing just that. Alhamdulillah. We could talk about the next part of that. I mean, like, so one, there's several aspects of these type of projects, like you said, just rehabilitating these pumps and placing new ones in place. Like how much, like I would say, projects like this, how much do you IR spend on some of these projects upwards?
They're not cheap.
Oh.
Yeah, so so our current project now that we have going on is, $1.7 million to work on 12 wells. And, it kind of comes down to about $160,000 for each of these wells to rehabilitate.
Wow. Wow.
Ballpark. I mean, it's dividing things out and making sure all the support costs are there so that we can actually get everything in place, get that well rehabilitated. And then on top of the well rehabilitation, we don't have just the well. We don't just, plop a well down in the middle of Yemen and then say, here you go, have fun. The teams on the ground actually work with the community to provide information to the community in general on best hygiene practices. So how to wash your hands properly, washing your food with clean water, just different hygiene practices, using soap, things like that, and then providing them with a hygiene kit so that these communities have better access to better information about how to care for themselves and their children to prevent diseases such as cholera or COVID-19.
Right, and that's one of the things. I always like make a point of when we talk on this program, because it's not. I mean, it's not just. It's really like not just hygiene as hygiene tech. I mean, it's really as a disease prevention. I mean, you're talking about definitely clean people and people know the issues. But even here, when we started to have this thing with COVID-19, we had to remind people, like, especially in the heightened sense of where diseases are being transmitted because of dirty water, or things like or these respiratory diseases are happening. It is a need for us to make sure that we're informing people, encouraging people, and reminding them about hygiene practices, and make sure they're doing the best things to keep their family safe, their community safe, and their loved ones safe. So it's so important. Some people, I think, you're spending this money on these type of things. These are life-saving aspects, just as important as building that well and these other distributions that happen. But educating folks, reminding them, keeping them safe, so they can keep others safe. And here's some examples of young kids being, I believe here, who are going through that kind of course right there. I have a couple more shots like that as well. So you see a little cutie up there. And it looks like this one's not even just hygiene, but this also, I guess, the using of a net when sleeping at times for probably for like malaria and other kind of mosquito transmitted illnesses and stuff like that. Yep. And here again, you have here posting up, and kids are seeing here. So there's one thing you just mentioned here a little bit earlier about the water committee, and this is an example of a water committee meeting. And what are the type of things that they can you explain a water committee again, and what are the type of things that they do in this committee?
Yeah, so these water committees are established in every community where IR Yemen rehabilitates a well. So when a well is rehabilitated, there needs to be, somebody to maintain the well, somebody to make sure that the well still continues to operate as well as it is when IR Yemen leaves and says, here's your well, now keep it running, right? So these committees are comprised of men and women who are trained on the water life cycle, which is what you're seeing in this photo. The trainer's describing the life cycle of water, how it goes through the air, rains down into the water, into the groundwater, and comes and evaporates back out through the from like water sources. So these people are trained on how to operate the well, and then make sure and do regular testing to make sure that the wells are still safe for human consumption and for human use. So that is what these committees do, and that's what ensures this project is sustainable, because you can have the infrastructure every day, but if you don't teach somebody how to use it, it's going to break after a year or two. These
Right.
people are there to do the maintenance and to fix, the solar panels, to wash the solar panels so that they continue working at as high of efficiency as possible. Because if you get dust on them, the efficiency lowers and you get less power.
Right.
So these committees are trained to help the upkeep of that well and make sure that it's safe.
Yeah, I tell people sometimes. I remember some of the trips, like they even talk about. I know in some water committees, even there can be they even fine people at times. Like if you're in a space, like I forget what country I was in at the time, where like a place where they were saying, well, there shouldn't be shoes, or you shouldn't have cattle next to the water that could possibly contaminate that water source for human consumption. And I remember, I remember it was funny because one of our guys, he had his shoes on in the space because he was like trying to take a photo or something like that, and they were like, "You're kind of breaking the rules of the water committee," and he paid the fine too. And those fines are the things that help them, continue to upkeep, replace broken parts and different things like that. So again, this is one of the, I guess, like one of the tools that we use in the region, and many groups use to make sure that these interventions, communities across the country and around the world, are investing their hard-earned money to help find solutions for families that who don't have access to water, who don't have access to health, and as much as it is that to give those things to these families, or to provide them with these things, we want to also maintain your investment as a donor by having these water committees, meeting with local representatives to make sure that this is a long, sustainable intervention and not just a time for a photo op and we walk out and pat ourselves on the back, and then 6 months later, people are still in the predicament of not having clean water. So let's transition now. You had some good news, something that was new for me, I didn't know about this $3 million nutrition program, and I'm going to give it up again, give it a little up again. I was going to put food program because I'm always focused on the food aspect, but can you talk about? Can you tell us a little bit about this new initiative that we will be doing? This food program.
Yeah, so this is a project that was just approved by our project approval committee, so that we're going to be part of a larger intervention that IR Yemen is funding. That's actually a little over $8 million US.
Wow.
So we're contributing a pretty good chunk of money towards this intervention that's going to be supporting 150 health facilities through the entire $8 million contribution. So IRUSA is contributing a portion of that. And we'll be supporting those facilities with nutrition work. This is something that we funded in the past, but what that is specifically is treating children and pregnant and breastfeeding women who are malnourished. So this is called severe acute malnutrition or moderate acute malnutrition. And so this is where you'll see a lot of pictures sometimes of the child with a little taper on their arm and in the red. And so basically these children and these women don't have access to adequate food of adequate quality so that they can get the nutrition that they need to thrive and to grow. And what this does is this causes a lot of health conditions. It kills people, but then it also, if a child lives through that, the first 1,000 days from, the mother being pregnant to the age of 2 is incredibly important for mental and physical development. And if the child is malnourished, there are developmental delays, there's stunting. So, the child will be shorter when in adulthood. It'll also lead to lower income gains over the course of their life. So there's a lot of, really long-term repercussions to malnutrition.
Wow.
So what this project is doing is it's working on this nutrition front from 2 fronts. So one, it's treating these people who are, severely acute and moderately acutely malnourished, but to make sure that they get back up to a healthy weight so that they can continue to grow and thrive and, contribute to their family. That's providing supplementary feeding in under supervised medical care to make sure they get back up to weight. So there's these things called Plumpy. It's a bar. It's a feeding supplement that helps.
Right.
It's very calorie dense. It's very nutrient rich to make sure that people get all the macro and micronutrients that they need, so that their bodies can function healthily. At the same time, those families who are treated for malnutrition will also be provided with a food package for 6 months to
Right.
cover their basic food needs. And so what this is doing is ensuring that those families, after they're treated, it's making sure that they don't fall back into acute malnutrition, so that they don't have to face that cycle over again.
Yeah,
So that's those. Go
and I
ahead.
had examples of like previous years that we've done these kind of like food baskets or food distribution items that and families have had, and just showing you a couple. So this in our history, as far as giving families these items that they can have for like you said many months after coming out of the out of that coming out of the hospital and being able to continue to feed their families and continue to do this. 2 points I'd like to point out to the donors, or just you guys as donors. I want you guys to know, like she said, out of an $8 million project that IR Yemen is looking at doing. We're seeing 3 million of that is coming from the donors of the U.S. like you guys. Anytime, and I'll tell you across the IR family, anytime there are projects of these really heavy lifting projects that they really are going to make a big difference in the family's lives, they're always looking for us here in the U.S., the Islamic Relief USA donors, to step up and lead and take on. We're taking a huge chunk of this project, and you guys should be very proud of that. And then on top of that, like you said, I can remember even going to the regions and when they talk about people being able to get to these centers with these children who are suffering from malnutrition, if they can get to these centers, if they have a fighting chance, and usually they can get kids back to good healthy weights. But we need to have the funds, we need to have the access and the ability to have these centers to get families there. So know that you're a part of this, and like the different things she said, we're talking about they have long-term ramifications of these kids' education, and just their development and understanding, and then growth and their potential to earn later on. So you guys are making an investment, a long-term investment, even just with food, these food programs. Sometimes we think of, this is humanitarian, this is development. This is a different kind. This is definitely humanitarian in nature, but it's also, you're looking at these people's long-term development. If we start these interventions now, we inshallah we'll be fending off things that could happen in a later day. So that's a bit about that we're doing in Yemen. I don't know if you had any closing words about the projects in Yemen, and maybe why it's so important for us people to get involved at this date, especially now. I think we're almost we're in the 7th year. We're about to be on the 8th year of this conflict that's happening. And I don't know, just from your own experience of the things you've seen, reading the reports, the project. Why would you say like now more than ever we should be focusing on Yemen?
Absolutely. Yemen is, people have been repeating this for a long time. It's the world's worst humanitarian crisis. And that really hasn't changed over the past, 7 years. So the need is higher than ever. We're seeing higher rates of, hunger and lack of food security in Yemen, especially because of COVID and, restrictions that have kind of come in on COVID, difficulties with getting imports. There's been a lot of barriers to making sure that people have a good quality of life and are able to live in a dignified manner. So, anything that we can do to help really does go a long way, and it really does help the people in Yemen to, have access to basic necessities.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to switch gears right now, bring it up a little bit. A program that we're going to do that's going to be helping the next region that we're talking about. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. March 7th, inshallah, Islamic Relief will be doing the Isra and Miraj event, talking about that beautiful journey from our history, from the Islamic history that happened in the region that we're talking about in Palestine. Some of those great speakers like Imam Omar Suleiman, Hatem Bazian is going to be speaking there, Yassine Mujahid, so many great speakers, and it's all going to be done, inshallah, to support our work in Palestine. So, and of course, this is one of the countries, or this is one of the regions that you work in your portfolio. So, could you tell us a little bit about the projects that we're doing in general? And then I think we have some great videos that will go through some of those projects as well.
Yeah, in Palestine, so we work through partners who do the implementation for us on the ground, and the great majority of our work is done in Gaza for Palestinians. We do some distributions of Ramadan and Qurbani or Udhiyah in Jordan and Lebanon for Palestinians in those countries, but the great majority of our work is focused in Gaza. We also have one program through a partner that implements in the West Bank as well. And they focus on a variety of sectors. We provide support to orphans, we work on water and sanitation and hygiene, and we work on livelihoods and women's empowerment as well.
Excellent. And I think we wanted to take a short a case study on one of our orphan support programs. So let's go ahead and take a look at that video, and then let's talk more about what we're doing to help orphans and vulnerable children.
أرملة ل3 بنات منى ورؤى ونور. وفاة زوج علي بداية صعبة جدا جدا جدا. كنت الأم، الأبو، الخال، العم، الخالة في نفس الوقت، لكن في نفس الوقت كانت صعبة علي، كيف ما تحملتش الصدمة. لأن 9 بنات صغار، صرت أفكر كيف بدي أربيهم، كيف بدي أصير، كيف بدي أعمل. قلت بدي أقوى عشان خاطر البنات، لأن هذه البنت نور عذبتني بعد ما أبوها توفى. كل يوم بدها أبوها، كل يوم بدها أبوها. طب وأنا إيش أعمل؟ من وين أجيب لها أبوها؟ أول حاجة فكرت في نور، قلت لازم ألحقها في مدرسة تابعة خاصة إلها. وديتها لمدرسة الحق في الحياة، سجلتها، صار لها 3 سنة، 3 سنة بتروح الحمد لله ممتازة البنت، وتعلمت يعني حاجات كتير وصارت تكتب. والحين
ترسم علما على لمن الفاء اسحب.
لما منى وصلت الثانوية العامة يعني صرت أنا اللي أدرس مش هي اللي تدرس. يعني تروح من المدرسة أقولها يا ماما يلا إحنا حياتنا العلم. تقعد على مكتبها، لما أشوفها سهت شوي وكسلت أدعمها بكوباية ليمون، أدعمها بأي حاجة، أقولها يا ماما يلا تذكري فرحة النجاح. صرت كل يوم أدعمها، كل يوم كل يوم. لو تقولي والله أنت اللي في توجيهي مش أنا يا ماما.
أنا في ثاني ثانوي اخترت فرع الريادة عشان يكون أنا قيادية في المجتمع، وأقدر أكون إلي يعني مكانة في المجتمع، وأقدر أدير نفسي. أنا بدي أكون باحثة اجتماعية عشان أحس بالناس وأساعدهم في وضعهم الاجتماعي. بحب أرسم، يعني بفرغ طاقتي، برتريح لما أرسم.
استفدت من المشروع. أول ما بعثوا لي قالوا لي تعالي خذي الكفال، سجدت على الأرض على طول. حمد وشكر لرب العالمين. بشكر كل من قام على هذا المشروع، واشكر الغاية الإسلامية شكرا جزيلا، يعني ويجعلوا في ميزان حسناتهم، وربنا يتقبل منهم يا رب.
All right. Thank you. That was, I mean, alhamdulillah, a really great look. And and you're hearing from the family themselves, directly from their mouths. And we tell you guys when we're doing our programs that people are making dua for you guys, and how beneficial and thankful they are for these type of programs, and you're hearing directly from them. So can you tell us more about the project that this family is a part of, the Orphan and Vulnerable Children's Program in Holstein?
Yeah, absolutely. So this family and a couple thousand other families are being supported with cash support to cover their basic needs. So they're given quarterly transfers of money that they are able to use towards living expenses, primarily the child's main needs. So this could be education fees, it could be rent, it could be clothing, it could, they put it towards what the family needs the most to make sure that they have a dignified life. In addition to that, they are provided with clothing. In previous years, we've also provided school supplies, but this year what we're doing is we've increased the allocation towards clothing, so each child will be receiving more clothing this year because school has gone largely virtual. So our partner on the ground felt that this was a better use of our funds for this year. Under this project, these families also receive awareness sessions. So the families, the caregivers learn how to take care of their children. Most of these children are extremely vulnerable. They are either orphaned or, there's a family member with a disability that means they require additional support.
Okay.
So they get additional support. There's recreational days that are done just so these kids can, go hang out, have fun with their families and, be a normal kid. We don't know what that's going to look like this year because of COVID. Hopefully, we're going to be able to do something really cool with that, but it still kind of remains to be seen. Particularly vulnerable families get extra case management and social work support to make sure that they have the resources that they need to do a little bit better. And then some families also, there are some youth and some caregivers. So, mothers or fathers or whoever is caring for the family, maybe a grandmother, it really depends on the family makeup. They're all different. There's 100 youth and caregivers who are receiving vocational training under this project so that they can earn an income through the skills that they learn.
Excellent.
And then, so it's a really great project. It's something that we've been doing for several years now. And it provides much needed support for these families.
Excellent. And we're going to talk more about because one of the things that you kind of hit on nail on, and it's to go to transition to the next work that we're doing in the region. Like, one, amazing that the donors, what they're able to do and support these families who are in desperate need, especially families that have children who are orphaned with special needs. But on top of that, we talked about you talked about some of the training, and we saw the young woman talk about like what she's learning, the business administration stuff that she's learning, that inshallah will help her moving forward. And we know, and like as far as unemployment and many other issues in Gaza it's very extreme. So there is also a project that is talking about workforce development that we have a really great video from. I want to show you guys a bit of that as well. And again, we're trying to gear you guys up for on March 7th. We'll be having a program to give you a chance to learn even more about these projects and hear from really great speakers to support the work that we're doing in the region. So let's learn more about our workforce program that we're doing in the region.
أنا عمر قاعود، أحد مشغلين ال AFE في برنامج التدريب على رأس العمل. عندي قصتي الخاصة اللي حابب أشارككم فيها. بدأت قصتي في فبراير 2019 عندما سجلت في أحد مشاريع التدريب التابعة لل AFE، وكان البرنامج يستهدف بشكل متخصص تعزيز المهارات المتعلقة في العمل الحر. كنت مثل أي شاب يبحث عن أي أبواب من أبواب سوق العمل، والحمد لله أن استطعت من خلال هذا الباب أن أبدأ في رحلتي في العمل. التدريب بشكل عام عزز مهاراتي الحياتية والتقنية، وعزز بشكل خاص في فترة التشغيل أن أتوسع أكثر وأبحث عن آفاق أوسع في السوق، وأن أفكر بطرق مختلفة. بهذه الفترة جعلتني أني ما أفكر وأظل موظف عادي، لا بالعكس أن أنزل وأصير مشغل من أحد مشغلين الإيافي. مع بداية 2020 قدرت يكون عندي شركة وفريق عمل الخاص فيا، ومن خلاله استطعت في التسجيل كمشغل مع الAFE، وقدرنا نتشارك ونستثمر في الشباب ويكونوا معنا جزء من عائلة الشركة. وبالنهاية أنا بتمنى لكل متدرب ومتدربة يحققوا طموحاتهم المهنية والمستقبلية.
Excellent. That's really great. And I mean, because oftentimes we're talking about work where we were talking about in Yemen, where we're kind of focused on food support and water, but this is like some really serious kind of development work that we're helping again, to give people the tools that they need to be able to fend for themselves. So can you tell more about this workforce improvement program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're funding this project with a partner in Gaza to work with youth in Gaza on 3 separate tracks. So the first one is helping university graduates find a job. So this is providing them career mentorship, interview skills, resume help on how to write a better resume, how to look for work generally, but then also with a specific focus on virtual work, because there's a lot of youth in Gaza that can really benefit from doing virtual work with companies that are outside of Gaza. The second track that the EFE, that our partner EFE offers, is a job placement and training program where the youth go through a vocational training program to learn very specific skills that they can then use in order to, hopefully get long-term employment. Through the program, they're placed with a subsidized internship with an actual employer, and the goal is for that to turn into long-term employment. It doesn't always happen, but there are cases where it does. Yeah. So they're able to get real work experience so that they can then actually say on their resumes that they have work experience, which helps them go and get, if not the stay in that same company, they go to a different company. Excellent. They also learn, workplace readiness skills. They learn soft skills like how to work with customers, how to, get along with coworkers well, and different things like that. The final track of this project is the Entrepreneurship Track, and this really focuses on helping youth develop their own business and either start or expand it. So it connects them with different services like microloans. It helps them learn, what they need to develop a business plan and make it successful. There's a whole bunch of different skills that they learn and how to, build and grow their business from the bottom up.
Excellent. All right, we're kind of nearing towards the end of our time today, and wanted to maybe go really quickly into this one great program that's talking about flooding in the region, and then we can finish up with that. And again, ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you that we are talking about, earlier we were talking about our projects in Yemen and how you guys have been helping to save lives and improve lives there. Now we're talking about our work in Palestine, the region there, and you'll also know that on March 7th, 6 p.m., we'll be doing a project we'll be doing a program talking about Isra and Miraj, the beautiful journey, but at the same time that day we'll be funding these types of projects. So let's look at this this flood prevention program that we're doing.
أنا اسمي اسماعيل محيسن من مدينة غزة، سكان السجاعية. نصحى الصبح بفطر مع الأولاد وبنتسهل على الشغل. الوضع الاقتصادي في غزة سيء على ما أنتم شايفين. بنجري من الصبح لآخر النهار، الواحد يحصل لقمة أولاده. أكثر شيء يعني بحب أعمله في يومي اللي هو أقعد مع أولادي وأجمع الأولاد عندي. في المشروع يعني لما انه جاء كويس ساعد معايا في الحياه المعيشيه، يعني مصروف البيت، مصروف الاولاد، ان اصرف على اولادي. عندي 8 اطفال وانا وزوجتي، يعني الوضع اللي احنا انت شايف كيف، يعني 10 تنفار ال10 تنفار يعني حملهم ثقيل. امنيتي في الحياه انه استمر في العمل ونوفر حياه كريمه للبيت.
Excellent. All right. Now, again, that's great because we're seeing a mix. Project One, being able to provide people with jobs, but also prevention of flooding for nearly 400,000 people. What more can you tell us about this project?
Yeah, so this is a really cool project. This is a project that it was phase 3 of an ongoing WASH project we have with this partner. Where in phase 3, what they actually did was they cleaned the stormwater gullies in Gaza City to make sure that they actually could absorb the water that happens, especially during the winter when there's a lot of rain and heavy flooding that happens. This flooding, what it does is it creates a lot of floods, as you've seen, but those floods aren't just water. It's also sewage. and debris and a bunch of other stuff that causes, a lot of health concerns. So cleaning these up and making these work better has been really instrumental. The cool thing is that we've just started phase 4 of this wash project, and we're moving to a different angle of the same project where we are working to clean up the Ascula water stormwater basin, which is a giant basin in Gaza City that collects all of the stormwater that runs down from Gaza City to help prevent flooding. The problem is it's too small and it doesn't work so well right now. So what we're going to be doing with our funding is our partner is going to be basically excavating and remaking this water basin to have better filtration, because what this water does, it collects all the water in this basin, and then that filters down into Gaza's aquifer, which is what it relies on for a lot of its water.
Wow.
That aquifer is actually 97% polluted because of overuse and seawater infiltration and issues with water infrastructure, meaning that sewage leaks into it. So any water that can be filtered back into that cleanly is really important, also because it's being depleted. So they're going to be expanding the capacity of that basin to accept more water, prevent more flooding, and also filter more water back into the aquifer, which is a really cool, addition to what we've already done in this project. And just, real quick is that this project is also focusing on, at providing communities with clean water infrastructure so that they can have clean water in their homes. It's also removing cesspits and sewers and putting in cesspits and septic tanks so that sewers can be installed for people who don't have them. And so it's really helping to create the infrastructure that's needed to make people healthier, and then providing them with the hygiene awareness and the health awareness that they need to hopefully not get sick.
That's amazing. I mean, this is it's huge. I mean, like we're talking about, this is something that will affect people's lives for many years to come. Oftentimes, our donors are looking for these type of like groundbreaking projects that aren't just the same intervention that you've seen. I mean, definitely. I mean, the food interventions, the work we're doing with vulnerable families, that continues to be a need. But something like this, I mean, I'm excited to hear about this. We talk about, even here in the U.S., we talk about storm drain runoffs and its danger to the environment, to the bay, and to all these other things like that. And then we're looking at the same thing happen in Gaza, a place where infrastructure is very poor, and that that now we know that we're able to support a program through IRUSA and our partners on the ground to not only fix that, but now we're talking about expansion and doing more and increasing the capacity to do to help even more families to have better quality water in the region. I think that this and more and many more projects are the ones that we need you as our Islamic Relief supporters, donors, volunteers, whomever you are, to get on board and be ready for it. As I said, on March 7th, inshallah, at 6 p.m., we will be talking about all of these projects and more, and why you should be getting involved. Alhamdulillah. Barbara, really, as always, we really appreciate you being here with us, taking more time than I ever expected of your days and leading up to this and today. Like I said, we're going to bring you back closer to the anniversary of the conflict in Syria, I think around the 15th. So be ready to talk about our programs in the region and that are supporting for Syrian refugees and others. But any closing thoughts on work in Yemen and Palestine before we head out?
Just that we can never do enough. The need is really, really high, and anything that donors can give us, my job is to make sure that it gets used well. That's what all of our jobs is at IRUSA. So we're here to make your money go as far as it can and be put to the best use possible. And, we've seen your outpouring of generosity for a long time, and we're really grateful for that. And, we look forward to continuing to being able to steward your money in the best way we possibly can. So if you can, I really encourage you to donate to any of these causes, because they're really, really important.
Awesome. Thank you for leaving us on a. I was kind of wondering on the level of energy and stuff like that we were doing, because we were talking about like kind of a little bit of doom and gloom, and it ended on that water project which is with so much promise and so much potential. Thank you for doing that with us, and thank you all again for tuning in. And I know people will be checking this on the rerun as well. We're gonna go ahead and play that play it out with the advertising for the March 7th event that we want to see you guys all there. Thanks, Barbara. Take care, and you guys all take care. Assalamu alaikum, and keep the faith.